Thank you so much, Wendy. That was amazing. As an emerging woman myself, I know hearing words of wisdom from women like you was very powerful. Hello, everyone. My name is Gorzo Osaji. I am currently a senior at NYU Schack, an Institute of Real Estate. I would just like to say it was an honor and a pleasure being part of the planning and organizing committee to be able to put this event together for emerging women as an emerging woman. So I'm really looking forward to all the panels and all the guest speakers that we have here today. I'm looking forward to meeting each and every one of you, hopefully in the breakout sessions. And like Wendy said, I cannot emphasize enough that this is meant to be a networking opportunity. This is meant to be an opportunity where women of all walks of life get to meet and interact with each other. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all of you virtually and hopefully, if COVID permits, in the WIRE Symposium coming up this October. And with that being said, I would like to introduce Kelly Rocchio, who will be starting us off with our first panel.
Thank you, GOZOR. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kelly Rocchio, and I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome all the emerging women leaders and real estate professionals here today to our next gen inspirational and innovative women in finance real estate panel. First, I want to thank Dean Sam Chandon and the leaders of the Schack Institute of Real Estate, my fellow co-hosts, the planning committee, and everyone that was involved in helping make today's success. We've all been separated for over a year, something that we could have never expected when this pandemic hit last March. But I'm truly so happy to be here today, coming together as one to speak and hear from extraordinary women and their experience in real estate. All the women here today will be able to give us invaluable advice and help us understand how to best move forward with the progression of our careers in this new world. So today we have Katie Edgerton, Anita Laljet, Pastone, and DANIELLA MARCA, all who have which led spectacular careers cumulatively over the past 15 years. Ladies, we are so excited to hear from you today. So welcome, and let's jump right in. All right, panelists. If you could please give a brief introduction of yourself, your background, where you work, your role, and how you got here today, that'd be great. And I'll just go around with who I see on my screen first. So Katie, can you get us started?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kelly, and thank you to everyone for having me today. My name is Katie Edgerton, and I work within the commercial real estate group at Bank of America as a relationship manager. I've been working in banking for nearly 10 years. I started my career in strategy and corporate development at Santander Bank in Boston, focused primarily within the commercial and corporate banking unit. From there, I spent a year going through an intensive commercial credit training and was then recruited to be part of a 3-person team at People's United Bank, where I focused solely on M&A and strategy for the bank. After nearly 2 years in that role, I knew I wanted to pivot and pursue an opportunity to be on the line. So I took a job at Bank of America within our commercial banking group, which is where I met Kelly. During that time, I began my pursuit of getting an MBA at NYU Stern and will be graduating this July, which has just been an incredible experience. And 1 month ago, I actually pivoted into our commercial real estate group. So I'm currently in the learning phase, but I'm thrilled to be learning and working within a new vertical under the commercial umbrella. And I'm excited to hear some backgrounds of the additional panelists today.
Awesome, Katie, thank you. I see Daniela, Allie, and then Anita. So if you guys want to go in that order, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Daniella Marca. I work for Maxim Capital Group, which is a bridge lender in the commercial real estate space. So focusing on properties that are in transition, whether that be a construction project, a quick close acquisition, maybe a lease up play. So that's what I'm doing now, focusing on new business and originations there. I started my career actually in the banking side, a little bit more institutionalized. My first job out of college was a marketing internship. And through that marketing internship at a bank, I kind of got to see the different sectors and financial planning within the bank itself. And I just noticed how successful the commercial real estate department was, and that it was really a driver for all of the other revenues in the bank. And that's kind of where I started shifting my focus and getting interested in real estate and wanting to align myself with that. So from there, I worked at another bank, also doing bridge, And that's kind of been my trajectory, starting on the more institutional side and then getting a little bit more into the private debt fund space.
Awesome. Allie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Pastone. I'm honored to be here today. Thank you very much for having me. I work at Cerberus in the Commercial Real Estate Debt Fund. It's a relatively new platform that we launched just last year. So really excited to be here building a brand new business line. From a personal note, I grew up in New Jersey. I went to Boston College for undergrad. I started my career at Barclays Capital in the CMBS group. After 3 years there, I went and got my MBA at Wharton. Tried a couple of other things, just wanting to diversify my skill set and my experience, but ultimately found my way back to commercial real estate. I spent the last 6.5 years of my career at AllianceBernstein and their real estate debt fund. I view that as sort of the formative years of my career where I really began to advance myself and feel established in this industry. And like I said, now I'm at Cerberus and really excited to be starting a new venture.
That's great. Anita?
Hey everyone, my name is Anita Laljet. I am a vice president in the commercial real estate financing group at Goldman Sachs. I started at the firm back in 2007 doing counterparty risk actually, and Goldman has a great internal mobility program, and I was able to move into our real estate group back in 2014. Our group originates mortgage and mezzanine debt for CMBS and balance sheet. And over the last couple of years, I've shifted focus from doing CMBS originations to doing more balance sheet originations. So currently specializing in construction lending, underwriting, structuring, and syndications.
Awesome. Well, it's been a year since COVID hit, right? And we've all been kind of in a work from home posture. How did your company handle COVID? Like what happened to you March 13th through 16th? I know I went in the office on the 16th, but by 7 p.m. everybody got an email that said, you know, you're staying home. We're still at home, as you can see. So if you guys just want to go around and talk about, you know, that weekend or, you know, that day, if you went on the 16th like I did, give us that story. Any one of you could start. I see Katie, Daniela, Allie, and Anita, but however you guys see yourself on the screen.
Sure.
Okay,
yeah, Daniela, you go first.
Sure. I mean, I'll say that the whole experience was kind of scary, right? I think that none of us really knew what to expect. And there was kind of this collective feeling of just holding our breaths and waiting out for the worst scenario. You know, we did stay in the office, I would say, kind of to like the very last minute. And it got to the point where I was walking to and from the office. I lived downtown. The office was in Midtown. I didn't want to take the subway in. But, you know, once we decided, you know, we're working from home, I think the first thing that my firm did at that point was just really kind of analyze our current portfolio. You know, we went through everything that we had on book at that time, you know, tried to identify where we thought there were some potential potentials for defaults or things to worry about, and essentially kind of re-underwrote, you know, internally our book of business, doing stress case scenarios and trying to see what would happen in a worst case scenario. And once we did that, it kind of helped us understand a little bit better our capital situation for new business. So I think that at first it was kind of focusing on what do we have on our books now? What do we need to do to maintain that? And then looking forward, you know, obviously, under kind of a new tighter underwriting, you know, how can we deploy capital in this new environment?
Got it. Katie, go ahead.
You know, I would actually echo a lot of what Daniela just said. Certainly a lot of portfolio analysis, liquidity stress testing, really review client by client, which was cumbersome in itself. And then on top of PPP, which hit not even a month after, it was a crazy couple, 3 to 4 months. Kelly, I know you can attest to that, as all the panelists certainly can. But yeah, a crazy couple of months. But certainly the focus was on portfolio maintenance and portfolio review and asset quality.
Absolutely. Allie, Anita?
Yeah, I mean, I had a similar experience. We had a sort of red-blue team, 1 week on, 1 week off, and I was supposed to be in the office the second week. And by that second week, hit, the world had turned upside down. So I've actually, because I changed jobs, I never made it back to my office. So I'm really missing all of the shoes that I left behind there. But similarly, we had been kind of like full steam ahead doing new originations, and just at the, drop of a hat, completely shifted to 100% asset management, 100% of our days on Zoom. It was a really, really interesting and transitional time. But I would say for the most part, we really kind of adapted fairly quickly and figured out how to navigate the circumstances. It was a long stretch, but I'm glad to be on the other side today.
No, absolutely.
So similar story, I would say at Goldman, we always had invested heavily in business continuity planning. So it was a really seamless shift from everyone being in the office to 95% of the workforce working from home. So that was great. I think one of the things that my firm did incredibly well was the communication nodes. We started doing like IBD specific meetings 3 times a week, which we had like highlighted speakers to discuss what was going on in various market, what was happening in the news, specifically with coronavirus and the technologies and vaccines and what was happening in politics. So it was a really interesting time. And I thought that the information flow was fantastic. Similarly, in my group, we, all new originations stopped. So we had a lot of inventory on the balance sheet. We didn't close a lot of deals that were supposed to be closed, restructured deals. So there was a lot of, focusing on our risk on balance sheet. But I think that quickly shifted to doing what we do, which is providing liquidity to the market. And there were tons of opportunities. There were mortgage REITs that needed financing help. There was deals that were supposed to close in CMBS. The CMBS markets were one of the last, as they always are, to reopen. So there was a lot of interesting opportunity, and that activity really picked up, where it was interesting because CMBS was actually down in volumes, probably 60% last year. But in terms of the revenues that we did were fantastic because we were able to find ways to be relevant to our clients outside of CMBS. So it was great.
Absolutely. Well, interestingly enough, I know some of you hit on this. 3 of our 4 panelists actually made a transition to another role during this time, during COVID. So can you 3 give us some more details about how that took place, how you handled the transition? Just give us some more insight on that. Were you scared at all? I know I'd be nervous to make any kind of move during a pandemic.
I can start.
Sure.
So I actually was introduced to my now boss the first week of March. So really, really right before COVID. It was very timely. We met for coffee and we sort of hit it off. And then I advanced into an interview process that was 100% over Zoom. And for those of you who are navigating your career launches and career changes over Zoom, I give you a lot of credit, because I have to say, interviewing over Zoom, I really had no sense of how I was doing. Like, it's very different than being face to face. You're not really getting that real-time feedback. It was just a little bit bizarre. So I really didn't know how I was doing. Ultimately, I got the offer. I was thrilled, surprised, really excited about the opportunity. And for me, it was just kind of right time, right place. I had been at AB for 6.5 years. Like I said, I had helped build that business, and I was ready and excited for sort of a reset and a new challenge. The other thing about joining Cerberus at that time was it was a brand new platform. So I knew we would have no legacy issues at all, or no legacy assets. And I could sort of shift back to building a business and being on the offensive side and doing new origination. So that really, really excited me. So yeah, I transitioned in September, and I can't believe it's been 7 months now, but so far so good.
Awesome. Katie, I know you mentioned that or Daniela, go ahead.
Yeah, so my transition is a little bit even, newer. I'm on week 3 of my new position right now. And yeah, it was interesting because it's not something that I was planning on doing prior to COVID hitting. So kind of getting used to that idea of making a transition while all this was going on was a little interesting, but some good opportunities presented themselves. And I think that's also something to speak to the market right now. I think a lot of firms are expanding. People are looking to grow out their teams. Business is getting back. But luckily I ended up, going to a shop where I knew a lot of the people already. So there were some existing relationships, which made it much easier to transition. But, just like Ali, I did go through some of those formal Zoom interview processes, and it's really tough because it's not as candid, it's not as comfortable. And so you really kind of have to try a lot harder to make that connection with someone. And then even after you join the team too, I think, luckily we've been doing kind of some Zoom happy hours or just informal phone calls, but it's also just kind of breaking down that virtual barrier that remote work has kind of created, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Daniela, I'm right there with you in the very, very new camp. I'm also 3 weeks into this new role, and it was an internal transfer, which makes it a little bit easier, I would say, than switching firm to firm. But knew I wanted to move up market. Bank of America has been pressing internal mobility, especially over the past 2 to 3 years, and leveraged a lot of internal contacts that I had. And I never thought I was going to go into commercial real estate. If I'm being candid, I was actually planning on pivoting into investment banking, and I'm happy I didn't go down that road. But I'm very excited. There's a lot of exciting opportunities going on in this space. And I would certainly echo your sentiment. It's very hard to start a new role remotely. I had to meet my new boss secretly for coffee at a Barnes and Noble, which was just so uncomfortable, and it just so awkward with our masks on. But certainly looking forward to the opportunity, and I think Bank of America did a really good job and continues to do a really good job to promote that internal mobility, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we can hear one thing or get one thing from what you all just said, it's all about relationships. It's all about relationship building, both internally within your organization and then externally as well. So again, another theme, of today. Now that we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel for the end of COVID, what are you guys seeing in the market now versus what you saw a year ago?
So
whoever wants to go first. Katie, your box is highlighted. So.
Sure. I certainly from a commercial real estate perspective, things are starting to pick back up. I mean, if you think back a year ago, everything was on hold. Construction was on hold. No one was going to hotels. Travel was muted. So things are certainly starting to pick up, especially on the industrial and warehousing side, I would say. In terms of more broadly speaking and across all industries, obviously there's a lot of M&A activity. There's a lot of liquidity events going on in the market. It's a frothy time, if you will. I know a lot with the interest rates being so low, there's a lot of lending activities going on. So it's picking back up at a pretty steep pace, but it's certainly a unique time, I would say. And I defer to some of the other panelists to sort of tag team there. But that would be my initial thought.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say because, oh, go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
I was going to say, because I'm in the bridge space, I had a little bit of an interesting perspective, because just like Anita was saying earlier, where a lot of the banks started pulling back, CMBS wasn't putting money out, I was seeing deals that traditionally wouldn't have gone the bridge route just because of, things that were retraded, or just lending was kind of dried up. So for me last year, it was kind of a mix of seeing really good deals that normally I would not have the opportunity to finance. But then also, I would say the majority of the requests I were getting were cash out refinances, which I think just kind of also spoke to the mentality in the market, and everybody was just focused on liquidity, wanting to pull money out, wanting to make sure they had, some cash sidelined. Those are always really tough deals to get done. But I will say in the last 4 to 6 months, I've kind of seen that shift where I'm seeing more acquisition focused deals, construction starting up again, which is always a good sign to see cash, put back into the market.
Anita, do you want to finish what you're saying? Sorry about that.
Yep, sure. I was just going to add on to what Katie was saying with like CMBS markets. Like in 2020, volumes were down a lot, and that's because 40% of our business in CMBS is retail and hotel, which is still recovering. But I I think a lot of people thought that 2021 would be similarly slow, but it's just the opposite. It's actually quite busy because there's a ton of, in the beginning of the year, there was a ton of demand and not a lot of supply. So spreads tightened to probably where they were the tightest since the global recession. And because of that, it opened up the market such that landlords wanted to get back and start doing deals. The market's wider now just because there's so much supply. Like, we're doing a deal a week. And when was the last time anyone can remember putting a deal into the market every week? It's kind of crazy, in a great way, in an amazing way. And then on the balance sheet side, it's incredibly competitive. It's really, really hard to win deals. There's a ton of construction that's happening again, because I think people are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that the rest of the year is going to be pretty interesting and hopefully very fruitful for all of us.
Yeah, I would just add, I agree. I've seen similar trends to what everyone else just mentioned, but from a year ago, the world shut down, we shifted to 100% asset management, and now we're back to originations. But what I think is even more interesting is even in the last 6 months, how much the market has changed. When I first started at Cerberus in September, I was seeing a number of deals that were low leverage and you get paid real premium pricing because a lot of groups were still sitting on the sidelines, and that's no longer the case. Everybody's back. It's super competitive. I can't believe how tight everything is going off and how competitive everything is. So I think what's happened in the last 6 months is really pretty shocking and indicative of the direction that we're all headed now.
I know you guys kind of answered my next question, which was, what deals you have going on right now. Are you able to share any deals that are in your pipeline? And, it sounds like your business is going to make, a full recovery possibly by the end of the year. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, we've been focusing on asset classes that have demonstrated more resiliency throughout COVID, such as industrial, multifamily, and I think everybody has the same idea because we're all chasing the same deals. The market's tightening significantly. There's a lot of competition. So I just think what's important today is just to really maintain your discipline and be patient and wait for the right opportunities with solid credit stories and strong sponsorship, and not to just be sort of irresponsible and drop your rate tremendously just to win. I think that we're all just going to have to be a little bit patient, a little bit disciplined to get the right types of opportunities in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Did anybody else want to comment or? No.
I think that was really well said and completely agree.
Definitely.
Yeah, I would just agree that I see kind of the tightening of spreads that everyone is talking about. I think a lot of lenders, even in my space, in the bridge space, will say that we're willing to get tighter on pricing, but we won't go up in proceeds. So I think there's still kind of that mix of everyone wants to stay a little bit conservative on the underwriting. Nobody wants to over leverage, but they're willing to take a little bit lower returns, in order to do that.
No, definitely. So I wanted to switch gears, a little bit. Being that we have a lot of emerging women leaders and real estate professionals in this session, what advice can you give the young women leaders of today, kind of that helped you get to where you are today?
Sure, I can start. I might be a bit biased in answering this question as I work in sales, but I would argue that the biggest piece of advice I would give to anyone to make an impactful would be to make impactful relationships with as many people as you can. Because down the road, those relationships will come back to help you tenfold, albeit when applying for a new role, sourcing new deal opportunities and the like. I cannot stress enough the importance of human connections in this industry and across all industries, but specifically in commercial banking, and how far being likable and relatable can get you. I think it's really key.
Hey, Raul, it's Lisa.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I just missed your call.
Can you guys make sure you guys are all on mute? Or Patty, can we mute everyone except my panelists? Okay, I think we're good. Perfect. Daniela.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Yeah. I think networking is just so important. Just kind of really building your network. I love the piece of advice earlier, just ask someone 2 or 3 people you can introduce me to.
I wrote that down in my notes over here.
Yeah, I love that. I think that so much of this industry is just getting to know people, connecting with them, but also networking doesn't always have to be, real estate related. I think getting out there, other things that you're interested in, anything that helps build kind of your web of people that just helps you with your career down the line. And I would also just say one piece of advice for people getting into the industry is to take some Excel modeling courses, because I think that's something that I still don't enjoy, right? And I never really did, especially, when I was in college, but I think that it's really beneficial. And if you have that kind of in your back pocket, it helps you really get your foot in the door to a lot of these companies that are hiring, especially, on the real estate finance side.
I've heard stories about going into interviews and they're unplugging the mouse and, have to do it all by hand. So everybody at Schack knows to take free Excel modeling classes that they call.
Yeah, definitely.
Allie?
So one thing that I've been thinking a lot about recently is authenticity. I feel like as women, we're told a lot about how to behave, prove that you can do the same as your male counterparts, prove that you're offer something different than your male counterparts, do this, do that, ask for more. And I think you just really have to do it sort of in your own style. And, I think of an example from early in my career. I was new to the group and wanted to sort of make friends, and I brought cookies for my team.
Awesome.
And somebody said to me, don't take cookies. Like, you're just going to be looked at, you're not going to be taken seriously if you're just the girl that brings in cookies for the group. And I kind of thought to myself, like, but why? Like, it's something nice that I wanted to do, and that's who I am. And, I like sharing and things like that. And so I think that there's no script or, steps that you have to follow to advance your career. Yes, we should ask for more. We should all be advocating for ourselves, but you have to do it in a way that's natural and authentic and comfortable for you, and sort of script your own narrative rather than following, anybody else's idea of how you should look, act, transact, grow, and explore. So I think, it sounds a little bit cliche, but you really have to do it in your own personal style and just be authentic to yourself.
I love that. Absolutely.
So I guess to add, I would say on the networking point, I think it's important to have, and I'm sure you've all heard of this, your personal board of directors. I think that's the single thing that's really helped me. And filling it with the right people. So you definitely want to sponsor someone that can advocate for you and knows your strengths, and candidly knows where you're challenged and can help you improve on that. You want someone that's a mentor that you can just be totally honest with. You want to fill it with people that are professionals in the industry that you're interested in. And I think surrounding yourself with those sorts of people is really important and will help your career development over time. And that's kind of like an extension of the whole, networking. And I think what I would say for students is that you don't have to have it all figured out now, and don't put so much pressure on yourself to find that one perfect first job. It doesn't exist. Just try to find something that will give you experiences, and you'll work with people that are smart and interesting, and you'll figure it out from there. I think a lot of times people put too much pressure on themselves, and a career is a marathon. So you just want to make sure that what you're doing every day is what you enjoy doing. And when you stop enjoying, you pivot. So I think that's kind of where I would say I've gotten the most helpful feedback in my career doing.
Sure, absolutely. And you kind of led right into my next question, which is, do all of you either have a mentor, a sponsor, or both? And how important was it to your career to have someone in your organization there helping, to support you? I guess, Katie, if you want to go first.
Sure. The answer is absolutely yes. I have several, might be a stretch, but I would say I have 3 strong mentors and 5 sponsors, if you will. And I think
what do you see as the difference between the two? Because I know people, sometimes get confused, but there's clearly a difference between a mentor and then a sponsor.
Yeah, for me personally, and this is just my viewpoint, a mentor is someone who's a much more senior and seasoned, and has who I've known for quite a long time. A sponsor, on the other hand, is someone who may have been my boss previously, and I've gotten to know very well, who knows both my strengths and weaknesses. So there's a little bit of a differentiation there. But I like the board of directors analogy, and I would say around like 8 to 10 people fits that profile. And having role models, mentors, and sponsors has just helped me so much in my career and continues to pay dividends. If you stumble or have questions, they're the people that you can rely on. And frankly, they're the only ones that will tell me things I don't always want to hear, but that I really need to hear. So I think that's been, yeah, absolutely one of my biggest resources throughout my career.
I would say I don't have a single mentor or sponsor kind of in the formal sense, someone that, that is kind of my go-to, but I am lucky enough to have worked with or worked under a number of people, both male and female, who I would consider someone that I could pick up the phone and call and ask a question to. But I think also, like you were saying, people that are a little bit more of my peer level too, and just having that open dialogue. Especially as it relates to, which is something a lot of us don't like to speak about, but compensation and fair pay and things like that, that as women, we have sometimes a harder time really advocating for ourselves. But having that dialogue with people that I know in the industry kind of gives me a little bit of that courage in my back pocket to say, like, no, this is what's fair. This is what's in the market. And just kind of motivating myself based on that knowledge that my peers have provided me to go in to have those conversations is really helpful.
Absolutely. Allie?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really fantastic point. I mean, I definitely have mentors and sponsors, and I think back to the day that I got this job offer and I just started picking up the phone and calling all of them. And, it was really important for me to hear their thoughts and have their buy-in before I made such a dramatic change. But focusing on your peer set is almost equally important. I think back to my first job, I met a woman from Goldman Sachs on a site tour. We were young, we were clueless, we didn't know what we were doing. And, we've kept in touch over the years. We've shared ideas and struggles and challenges and successes. And now she's in a decision-making role and I'm in a decision-making role, and she's one of my best clients. And I think making sure that you invest the time in your peers and not only always trying to advance yourself and talking to those senior to you, it is a really, really important point that Daniella made.
Anita?
I guess the only thing I would add to the comments that have been made is it's important to, I think, like, you have I think it's important to have a sponsor that will basically say, like, hey, if you're interested in a role, like, you can put me down as a reference, and just make sure that you have people that will back you up. Obviously having a mentor is important, but like building a relationship such that someone feels that they trust you and they can advocate for you is extremely important. And then I always say this to my analysts, make friends with your analyst class. They're going to be your best friends from the moment you start till when you're all MDs, partners, whatever it is, and people are going to leave and do different things, but you're always going to be, you like grew up in the trenches together. That bond is like no other. Like, these are the people that are going to be in your wedding when you get married. So, and they will also be your biggest networking resource in the future. So I would say like having and going out and making friends with your analyst class is also like another big point that I always hone in. And I tell people, make time for it, make time to go out and talk to each other and complain together or whatever it is. Because those are going to be the lasting relationships.
No, absolutely. That's great. So overall, how has your experience been as a woman in the real estate field? And I know this has happened to me several times, whether it was networking or, whatever it may be, but how have your feelings been towards most likely being one of the only women, when you walk into a room? I see we're all thinking. Whoever wants to jump in and go first.
Maybe I'll go first. I'll give more of a broad stroke overview just because again, I've only been in this specific vertical for 3 weeks. But in banking in general, and I'm just thinking back specifically in commercial banking, especially when I started, there weren't a lot of women who had leadership roles. And I actually, and a lot of my mentors have been men. And I specifically recall going into a series of meetings and I didn't say anything. I was just listening, trying to be a sponge. And one of my male mentors said, you can speak up. People want to hear what you have to say, even if it's just one sentence, one thought, one comment. And from there on out, that changed my perspective, and I'll never forget that moment. But I don't mind being a woman amongst men. I think in sort of, I don't know. I think it actually helps at times. Just because again, a lot of my mentors are men. Banking has been predominantly men, and I've never found that to be an obstacle. I've actually found it to work in my benefit. So I think I don't know. It can go either way, I suppose.
Sure.
I think Katie articulated it better than I would have, but I really echo a lot of her sentiments. And I feel like I've sort of gotten used to being the only woman in the room, and it's unfortunate that it's sort of the norm, but I really don't have that many complaints or feel like I've been treated unfairly as a woman in this industry. I will say that now in my new seat, I'm reporting up to a woman who's the head of a global business, and I have a woman reporting up to me, and it's really, really exciting just seeing the shift. And I'm really just glad to see the emergence of women and all the women on this panel today, by the way, and the audience. Like, it's just really, really exciting to see all the women who are interested in this industry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would add on saying, I think we all are a little bit familiar with that only woman in the room feeling, but I think also that it's changing, which is something that I think is a positive shift that we're seeing in the industry. It's kind of happening less and less. And just like Allie said, I personally don't feel like I've had situations where I've been treated unfairly or been disadvantaged because of my gender, but I think that where the disadvantage comes in is maybe my own mentality. I think that I'm definitely guilty of having the imposter syndrome at times, and I think that a big shift for me and a breakthrough moment is just recognizing, my value as a woman on a team, adding to a team, and just realizing that as women in the industry, we're kind of a hot commodity right now. I think that a lot of, whether it's banks, private funds, are looking to bring women onto their team and continue to diversify. And so just kind of recognizing our worth in that area is huge.
No, I love that. Absolutely.
I would echo that it's definitely changing. The partner that runs our real estate business at Goldman is a woman, and she actually started as an analyst, and she'll tell you that when she got pregnant, all of the people that ran our group at the time were like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. We've never had someone be pregnant in our group, but we're going to figure it out. And they did. And now, I mean, I would say most of our incoming analyst and associate classes are probably 50-50 male, female. And we do have a lot of strong senior women also, which is great. One bit of advice that my partner gave me a long time ago, because real estate is such a male dominated field, and not just men that are our peers and our age levels, but men that are a lot older. And how do you connect with someone that is like 50 or 60 years old that has grown kids? How do you build a relationship there? And what she told me was execution. If you execute well for your client, they're going to remember that. That's what they care about. They do a good job, do well, be there for your client, have them trust you, and everything else will fall into place. And I think that's sometimes the only thing you can do if you can't really build some sort of personal connection with someone. Just show that you are capable, and that advice has served me well over time.
Yeah, definitely. I love everything that you guys just said. I know it's 1:27. I have one last question. We'll do a quick lightning round, but we want to know, what are your own personal and professional goals heading into, well, for the rest of 2021 and then heading into 2022? So go around. We can go quickly.
Okay, I'll go really fast. All right, so learning for me, number one, just being a newcomer to the group. And I would say just continuing to build being a generalist. And I think that this is really, really important because one of my mentors, he stated, you know, maybe not in your 20s or your early 30s, but once you start getting into your 40s and you're up for some more senior positions, people are going to want to see that you're a generalist. So I think broadening your knowledge base is really, really important. And I would stress that to everyone on this call. Learn as much as you can about as much as you can. It's certainly not a bad thing at all to be a specialist in one area, but try and learn as much as you can across the commercial real estate and or the financial services spectrum as much as you can.
Awesome.
My goal for this year is really just it's simple, to get back to New York. So I'm one of those few that was not few, I guess.
For you. We're open.
Yeah, I'm guilty of fleeing down to Florida the past year, you know, and I'm excited to get back to the city, kind of hit the ground running. And that's really my focus for this year, is just to kind of go full speed ahead.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think just being part of a new platform that we're trying to get off the ground, I'm sort of heads down from a professional goal standpoint. I think that if we can get this business off the ground in a remote environment and deploy capital and build a team, that will be an accomplishment in and of itself. And so I'm really focused in helping to build this business.
Awesome. Anita, take us home.
I would say making money for the firm, but more importantly, making money for myself.
I love that.
It's always, you know, sometimes you get so caught up in your day-to-day that you kind of forget, like, you need to grow like yourself, not just like focus on, you know, what you're doing for work. You have to focus on your personal goals as well. And so I think this year, what I would like to do is focus on, you know, getting as much as much as we love what we do it for money, right? Like, it's a grueling lifestyle. So focusing on maximizing my own personal wealth, and of course, just always learning. And I think, you know, always becoming better and more of an expert in the field that I'm in.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, you guys, thank you so much for all the invaluable advice. I mean, I'm sure that everyone, you know, listening to this will have so many takeaways. So really, thank you so much. So it's 1:30. We're going to have to wrap up. We're going to go ahead and take a short break, and then we'll come back with Michelle Klager leading our Next Gen Acquisition and Leaders panel, which will start right at 1:40. So we will see you there. Thanks, ladies.